Hello and welcome back. I'm back from my holidays. It's getting autumn in Berlin, so we are on our autumn decoration already. And this video I wanted to talk about a question or a topic that a lot of people have in our daily and weekly coachings, and a couple of strategies that you can apply if you are one of the people who shares those same challenges. And here's the challenge. Now, oftentimes we get contacted with a situation, where people would say, hey, my life actually isn't bad. Like, I don't feel I should be complaining, but I know that it definitely isn't good enough for me to say, hey, I'm really proud of this, or I'm actually fulfilled. And the one little piece of encouragement I want to get to you is, like, don't feel embarrassed by this. Look, if your life isn't terrible enough for you to change something, that's one thing. But the absence of unhappiness doesn't mean that you're actually happy. And when we are saying being happy or fulfilled, we don't mean that you have to be like exhilarated every single day and kind of kiss the copy machine at work because you're loving the stuff so much you're doing there and you're so like on the high fly. That's not what we mean. Instead, what I say when being fulfilled, for me, it's like, if you have the question in your mind, am I on the right path? And your answer is a confident yes. Maybe not things are all of the time fantastic, but I feel I'm moving towards the right direction. And this is actually quite substantial, I feel that the things I can influence, I do influence. And I choose to, kind of work on the things that I can actually control. So having said that, if you are in a situation where if you ask yourself the question, hey, am I on the the right path? And there is an answer popping up like, like, I don't know, maybe. Chances are there are a lot of things you can improve. And I want to just zoom in on one particular topic because obviously at the Arc, a lot of people are approaching us with stories around how they feel they could have more impact professionally, how their relationships could be deeper, and things like that. And the number one demon in the house tends to be confusion. Because obviously, when we are being faced with such a story, like, my life isn't bad enough to change something, but it definitely isn't good enough to call myself happy, we'd be asking, so what is it that you want? What do you actually want? And this is where people go, like, I don't even know, like, I don't even know what my passion is. I don't even know where to get started. I don't even know, like, how is it going to be if I do all these things, and blah, 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 blah. And you get some hours of mumble jumble, if you wish. And I just today want to talk about how do you dig yourself through that confusion. Because confusion is a beast, and it doesn't have to be there. Now, what are the strategies? First of all, I think it's good to understand that confusion really serves the purpose oftentimes to protect you from the feelings you believe you would experience if you chose to just be clear. Now that maybe sounds like a bit of a turn off for many of you out there, but what I mean by that is in almost all of the cases that I've been coaching, people actually do know. So deep inside, you actually do know, or let's say they actually did know. Maybe you're the first exception I'm meeting, but if you ask people, how are you feeling about something? Usually you get some sort of reaction. And this is really the key, So if you understand that at the end of the day, you do know, of course you know what your passion is, somewhere deep inside you will. That's sort of like the first step to actually get rid of it. So first, and I know it's an assumption, we assume that the confusion literally just serves you to protect you, to shield you from all that nasty things that you feel you might experience if you chose to have clarity. this is the disclaimer, so let's talk a bit more about that. First thing, and I'm going to go back to this one question that I have, that people had, what do you do in a situation where your life isn't terrible enough to change something, but not great enough to be proud of it, is to actually admit that you have a challenge. And for a lot of people, that's something very daring. And we literally just be like, hey, understanding where your challenge lies is the best and most effective first thing you can do to actually solve it. And I just want to highlight, just a couple of days ago, I have been doing a workshop with people, in their mid-late 40s, early 50s, and I would say the biggest realization that many of them had was like, wow, if I had just, dared to say that I have a challenge in my professional life in certain areas that I only now realize that they were a challenge, they would have been so much better off. And it literally broke my heart, because I know so many people as well who, will follow a route that is sort of good, but then again, not really cool, and, wake up when they're like in their literally end 40s, early 50s, understanding, wow, my days are numbered. And literally, the best step is, and I'm going to repeat this, understand and grasp that this is a challenge, that the lack of unhappiness doesn't mean that you have to be happy, and that not being happy is actually a challenge. And I just want to be super clear on this, because why in our days is that even the case? Why is it kind of not very beneficial to live on second, third gear, on sort of like half a flame? I would say, these days our generation particularly has so many opportunities to pick from, that, knowing what you love and getting really good at that is not just some sort of luxury thing. It's not an art anymore, but it's actually become some sort of hard skill. And this is why you want to make sure, like, if you're really on the rational side, this is like the last reason I have for you, why you want to make sure that you really listen to what's here, and in your gut, and kind of learn to tweak those open ends, and understanding that you have a lack of fulfillment might give you really, really great insights on where would be the direction, where would the directions head you that you would be probably better to take. First thing. Second point. What is like a second good strategy to deal with that situation, that challenge I have presented in the beginning, and also the confusion that comes along. Now, confusion tends to pop up when, there are sort of different priorities battling in our brain for our attention. What do I mean by that? We would say usually confusion shields you from these uncomfortable emotions, and from experience, I would say most of the time what is at the bottom of this is fear. And fear that manifests itself in two different aspects. One is fear of failure, because if you just shoveled that confusion away and said, you know what, guys, here's what I want. I want that, salary increase. I want that bigger impact. I want to start a company. I want to, whatever it is, have this great internal project. There is a chance, by just articulating this, that you might fail. As long as you keep it in the foggy abyss, and don't even articulate it to yourself, it's impossible to ever fail, because you've never put it out there as a goal, and we feel this is one thing that holds people back massively. So myself, I'm obviously running a company, very well acquainted with that beautiful demon of failure, and I want to just say one thing, and that is one of the things I found most effective when dealing with failure, because most of the time, we're scared of that emotional state that happens when we feel like we are about to fail, right? Just to give you a small example, a lot of starting entrepreneurs are fearful of a situation where they run out of money privately. where they're literally shortly before personal bankruptcy, and like this is like, Now, interestingly, I've also met a lot of entrepreneurs who have run out of money, and they'd be like, you know what? I was scared shitloads. Sorry for the word, but once that happened, you understand you're not dying, And I'm like, how do you mean you're not dying? But no, you're not dying. And you literally lose your fear in the moment. So the way I like to put it is, fear is the story you're telling yourself about all the terrible things that will happen if you do something, And again, most of the times we are scared of something, and we are not scared in the middle of a situation, that, and understanding that is like something super, super powerful. So what is a good way to deal with that is because, failure is going to come. If you put up a goal, there's no way you're always going to reach it. And I guess that's one of the harsh realizations that people have to make as they grow up. Yeah. So what is important is not when failure is coming and how you can back away from this, but ask yourself, who do I want to be when failure hits? Stop being so concerned about when it comes, because hey, it will come, and start thinking about who you will choose to be when it happens. First thing. So that's the first thing, and really how to handle that demon of fear of failure back. There is a second reason as to why I feel people are really staying in that confusion. And that is, so let's suppose you have already put out your goal, so that's not your issue. But you know that, for instance, I don't know, you want to start a blog, you want to write a book, or whatever it is. And then you're like starting to get going, but you're really struggling, or you're kind of like wanting to get go and you're not really like going on, So at the arc we call this, you are suffering from non-action or poor action. Yeah. So basically you're not doing anything, or you're kind of like the stuff you're doing, is not working out well. And over our coaching conversations, the one thing we've realized is that we stay in our confusion. Like the one thing that confusion shields us from is to take all those harsh decisions, and because we assume that if that's our goal and we want to get there, we're going to have to take a lot of decisions that are potentially harsh. It's like, I have to quit, I'm going to feel bad. It feels like breaking up with my boss, or I'll have to, if I quit, I'll have to talk to my partner, and I have to inform my partner of the fact that he or she will, I don't know, have to live on a smaller budget for a while, and whilst that's maybe cool as long as you're in two different households, it might be a bit more challenging if you're single, if you're married and you have kids or whatever, So hey, it's very easy to just say like, I don't even know what I'm going to do, because as soon as you're going to make it more concise, you're going to be faced with so many issues, so many hard questions that, where you have to take decisions, and where you're not certain the outcome will, not harm anyone else or yourself. And the one piece of advice that we can give that has helped a lot of people in our sessions is the following. You sit down, you go through the scenario, and you write down all the things that you feel you have to do, but that you are potentially scared of or feel uncomfortable with. And we would just love to challenge you to make it really concise, because what might happen is that you will understand that at the end of the day, it's not that bad. So let's go back to this example, and it's a personal example as well. When I was quitting a job at some point, I was scared, of disappointing someone, and I was scared to tell people who are really close to me, saying, look, I've quit this job, I don't know exactly what's coming next. But I realized by writing down that being held back by that fear is really stupid. And that at the end of the day, I really wouldn't have to be scared. People quit all the time. And I really understood that it doesn't have to be so bad. Yeah. Sometimes it is bad. And in that case, we recommend to just literally do a couple of safety measures. So, for instance, one of the things that I remember I did before I was founding my own company was to think about, when would I call this failure? Because I wanted to understand what does failure mean for me, and what are and also what are some of the harsh decisions I would have to take eventually, and so for instance. When I'm when is it that I feel that I'm out of money? Does it mean am I the kind of person who would take a mortgage? Or am I the kind of person who, if you have only so and so much money left on your bank account, I would actually look for a different job? So it's really cool to make that experiment and draw out your worst case scenario, be that in case of your fear of failure or in case of all those decisions that you feel you have to take and you don't want to make. Draw out your worst case scenario and see what are your alternatives, again, do I take a mortgage or will I find a job, and you will understand that you have always options, that you will never run out of possibilities to kind of like get it back on track, and if you're a very risk-taking person, hey, go and take the mortgage, and if you are a very risk-averse person, like make the maximum amount of money you're willing to lose, and then you can see, okay, 2 or 3 months, maybe even before that happens, I'm going to go on a job search, right? So what you will find is when you are doing these 3 steps, you're understanding the whole fear of failure thingies. You'll understand, if you understand the actual implications of the decisions you feel you have to take. And when you start putting in some sort of safety measures, chances are that your subconsciousness will have the incentive for your subconsciousness to get you into that confusion is just going to go down. Yeah, and it just might happen, and this is what I have seen again and again and again and again, that suddenly in the middle of the conversation, people go, you know what, I knew it all the time. Here's what I wanted. Here's what I'm really passionate about. Here is, what I want to do. Here's what I want to pull off. Yes, I'm scared of this and this, but honestly, I'm freaking excited, So this is a very, very likely outcome. And yeah, these are sort of like the strategies to deal with a situation where you feel, 3rd time or 4th time, I don't know how many times I've repeated this now, but in a situation where you feel your life is not terrible enough to change, but not great enough to call it fantastic, and where confusion hits in as a major obstacle. Cool. We hope you liked this video. As you know, we are always there for new input. If you have any particular topics that you feel passionate about, you really want to get into, write me a personal message. Also, if you're someone saying, wow, you just told me the story of my life, whatever, if you are stuck yourself in that sort of situation where you're like, it's not bad enough to change, but it's not great enough to call it fabulous, dare to give us a coffee chat. We are always there and happily prepared to see if the art can support you in your mission. And as we say, worst case, just have fun and enjoy some 45 to 60 minute coaching session, because that's what we do in our coffee chats. We organize always retreats and boot camps where we get together amazing individuals who are pushing the envelope and who are committed to be with you in a community of challenging, supporting, and inspiring each other. And yeah, if anything of these things sound like you're curious about it, again, just click on the coffee chat link below. We are always, always, always happy to be on the phone with you. With these words, happy afternoon. We hope to see you again soon on the group. Bye-bye.